Good morning, everyone. We'll just start. Just put in mute my echo. Okay, good morning, everyone. We will start right away because our guest speaker is already present. And let me just um, go through the official presentation. Thank you, everybody, for being here on time. Today is our third week, and let me remind you that on Monday we're gonna have the fourth and the last one. Our session today, we're gonna have an introduction to Dominica Zabala, that is our guest expert today, and we're gonna have a presentation and then a session of questions and answers and a closing. So let me just go directly to introduce Dominica Zabala, whom is part of the board. She is the board member of the National Second Tier Development Bank of Paraguay, AFD, and basically is the only national second-tier development bank in Paraguay. Previously, she was the general manager of MF Economía Inversiones, which is a leading consultancy firm in sectoral analysis and strategic policy research for both public and private sectors. She has worked as a consultant in various capacities, leading projects in England, Mexico, Brazil, Paraguay, and Argentina. Dominica has extensive experience leading teams in regional roles, covering and analyzing trends in Latin America. Her most recent experience includes projects with McKinsey and in public sector team in Mexico City, as well as sovereign risk analysis with Standard & Poor's in Sao Paulo, Brazil. She has developed economic policy research projects with the University of Oxford and the London School of Economics. Additionally, she has worked as a technology startup advisor for governments from London and as an international trade advisor for companies in Paraguay. Dominica holds 2 master's degrees, a Master of Public Policy from the University of Oxford and a Master of International Development from the London School of Economics, where she graduated with honors. Let me just pass the microphone to Dominica, and very welcome. We are very privileged to have you here. And thank you, Dominica. Please go ahead. I will stop sharing so you can start sharing your presentation.
Excellent. Bear with me a little. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I prepared a little presentation to help our discussion today. I would briefly want to thank you for inviting me. Thank all the team that has considered it appropriate for Paraguay to share its story. I will discuss today a little bit about the case of Paraguay and the role of national development banks in sustainable finance. But before we delve into sustainable finance products, I want to discuss tell you a little bit about my country. Paraguay is a Mediterranean country that has an abundant natural capital. It's squished in between Brazil, Argentina, and Bolivia. 44% of its territory is covered by forests, and it has one of the most diverse and unique ecoregions in the world. We share the Pantanal, which is the largest wetland with Brazil and Bolivia. We also have the Atlantic forest, which is one of the most biodiverse hotspots in the world. We have the dry and humid Chaco around this area, which obviously hosts one of the most biodiverse regions in the world in terms of biodiversity, in terms of native forests. And we also have the Cerrado, which we share with Brazil around this area, which is one of the most important savannas in South America. I want to tell you a little bit about Paraguay's macroeconomic context, because it's actually a very interesting story to follow. Paraguay, even though it's been under the radar, it has had an incredible evolution in its macroeconomic fundamentals. It's performed very well over the last 15 years, particularly. We've had a consistent growth per annum, and one of the highest in Latin America. Well, we were recently upgraded by Moody's, which is one of the rating agencies, to investment grade. We've lowered unemployment significantly, particularly after the pandemic. Poverty has been consistently decreasing, and the Gini inequality index has also lowered 10 points from 2002. This is particularly in a moment where a lot of the Latin American countries were experiencing a lot of convulsion. But the case of Paraguay is very interesting to observe. Recently, it's also been working a lot on the sustainable and green agenda. Paraguay's host also has the highest production of hydroelectricity per capita in the world. It's advanced on its commitments in forest conservation. Also, 18% of the conservation today is holding in private lands. We've also recently passed our new carbon law that creates a registry for carbon credits, and also creates a more robust legal framework for the protection of carbon projects. We have a zero deforestation law that covers the half of our country, which prohibits the clearing of national forests. We also have a law that requires landowners to preserve at least 25% of that forest cover. And we have also recently, in the last year, launched our National Forest Monitoring System. Also, I want to address a little bit about where does Paraguay fall in all of the climate change and nature laws, because a lot of financing is needed here. Obviously, a lot of the regional stage has been dominated by Brazil and Colombia, and now obviously a lot of the Amazon countries, but other countries in Latin America are also severely affected by climate change. Paraguay particularly is highly vulnerable to climate change. We almost more than 33% of our GDP depends on climate. The navigability of our rivers, where we move our products, depends on climate, where we produce our electricity. 80% of our exports depend on climate. We've recently experienced one of the worst droughts that basically destroyed the soya production, reducing it around 60%. We also face one of the largest financing gaps in terms of conservation. If you look what Paraguay spends in terms of conservation, which is around 3 cents per hectare, vis-a-vis other countries like Costa Rica, which spends around $16 a hectare. And also illegal deforestation continues to be a threat to Paraguay's natural capital. And this is where the innovation in the financial mechanisms are huge, but more is needed, right? Paraguay is seeking more finance in nature. Today, Paraguay has had 2 programs which are actually very novel. It's only 1 or 2 countries have involved themselves in this project. One is the Resilient Climate Facility with the IMF, that has concessional funding for Paraguay, conditional on certain green policies. We've also been one of the first countries to join the BID Clima, using sustainability-linked financing with the World Bank. And it continues to explore opportunities with other different global funds, like the Green Climate Fund and the GEF. And also there's a big window now in Latin America to actually be able to involve the importance of our region. because we've had the COP in Cali, we're having the G20 in Brazil, and next year we're going to host the Climate COP. And when we talk about innovative financing, obviously we cannot remove from the conversation the role of national development banks. National development banks originally were created to solve for long-term market failures in long-term financing. And today, obviously, and also it finance strategic sectors that have positive externalities in the country. Today, the national development banks are a key player in promoting sustainability and the sustainable development goals. It facilitates access to infrastructure and education, particularly long-term financing. It also works on promoting innovation and supporting strategic sectors, as I said, that have a high externality to the country. I want to delve a little this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time in this, but I want to show you a little bit of what IFED is, a young institution. It's 19 years old. When it was created, only 9% of total loans in the country had more than 3 years in financing. And today, it's 47% of loans are now more than 3 years. This means that we've done a good job, particularly in the housing market. We've developed long-term loans over 30 years in terms of housing and mortgages. For companies, we've also extended the financing and the productive sector as well. And now, obviously, we're working on the green agenda, and we have products up to 15 years with a two-year grace period. In terms of the credit lines, as I said, we are a second-tier development bank. So what we do is we provide funding to the financial institutions. We work with 49 financial institutions. These are banks, financieras, which are smaller than banks, and cooperatives, production and of savings. What we do is we provide the long-term funding for these financial institutions. And the financial institutions obviously are the ones who give the loans out to the businesses or the person. And these are the main credit lines. We have obviously some covering in industrial and commercial services. We have some for the productive, housing, and also education. We were also the first financial institution, just a year ago, to issue thematic bonds. Thematic bonds are green bonds, social bonds, sustainable bonds, and obviously we work with the Global Green Growth Institute. We've developed our sustainability bonds issuance framework, and trying to use this funding to link to categories or use of proceeds of financial products that are considered either social or green. This new financial instrument in the local market gained a lot of notoriety for AFD. Obviously, we wanted to work on solving for that market failure because nobody was using thematic issuances. And we also want to use sustainability to attract investors that are committed to green investments. In terms of AFD products that we use for the category of issuing our first ESG bond, we had to work over a year to analyze our products and be able to measure the indicators, but we had a green category and a social category. These were they called sustainable bonds because they include both. We basically had some products from our production of forestry, some on livestock, some for the co-ops, and also some products for energy efficiency. And on the social category, it was your first housing, education, and some SME financing. Our commitment to this tool, being the first financial institution that issued an ESG thematic bond, we've already done 3 of over an amount around 39 million. And if we look at the green financial products, which is kind of what I wanted to discuss with you today, we use these 3 categories. Which is Proforestal, which is a reforestation and project financing credit line and energy efficiency, and a new line that we have recently launched for financing good practices in livestock sector. What were our learnings? First of all, any financial institution that wants to use this framework to attract certain type of international investors, this is very important. Particularly as a development bank, we use multilateral funding. So being prepared to do all the due diligence and have our internal framework updated to the highest standards, this was very positive. And developing the framework also allowed us to align ourselves with international standards, which were crucial for transparency and effectiveness. It also helped a lot in our training and technical support for the issuance. Our biggest challenges is obviously finding the projects to allocate those funds because they have very high standards, and sometimes the project, the issuers or the banks are not really prepared yet to manage those requirements, and also having a detailed allocation of how you're going to use those proceeds also is a challenge in terms of measurements, and also including financial and social inclusion aspects post-pandemic. I want to kind of stop a little here and discuss about our green financial products, and I'm going to start on forestry, a little bit on livestock, and quickly on energy efficiency. We are now working, we've had a product on forestry for the last 12 years, and we're working now to update it. We've been working with the World Bank for over a year on creating a sustainable forestry product. It's going to be called Proforestal Más Verde. The idea behind this is Paraguay is now basically entering a new stage of growth in terms of the forestry sector. Paraguay has, the natural endowments to be a key player. The cost of land is much cheaper also than in the neighboring countries. A lot of different businesses are also looking at Paraguay as an interesting option. And we're trying to develop a financial product that has all the requirements that an international standard would have. With this loan, we're looking to mobilize private capital from multiple foreign sources because we will develop the highest standards for forestry. We'll also have a carbon capture element that will help generate carbon offsets from sequestration of the certified plants. It will create new and better jobs. If we think in the forestry sector, if for every 1,000 hectares, the job intensity is around 150 jobs to 200 jobs, and in livestock with low productivity is around 5 jobs. And also, it will also help maintaining these standards. It will help the protection of native forests, and it will reduce the pressure also for the remaining forests in Paraguay. We've also now recently launched our own livestock green product. This was a huge challenge. It took over a year in the making. We worked with WWF and other key strategic allies locally. We worked with producers, we worked with local banks to understand the needs for improving production efficiency. And we selected 2 practices, mostly pasture management, which means the restoration of degraded pastures, and investments in water use and efficiency water use, because obviously this sector, the livestock health sector, has been severely affected by drought. And hopefully we'll have the first credits this year, and we're quite excited about that. And lastly, we have our energy efficiency product. This will kind of bring me to my conclusion, so I leave some time for discussion. This product we've had for around 6 years with the Green Climate Fund. And when it arrived, our market was not ready to basically generate these types of projects. First of all, Paraguay is a country that has obviously abundant hydroelectric energy. And obviously making an investment, a long-term investment, changing your technologies or updating them were quite hard to pivot. And also the sectors that this type of funding was looking at is the SME sector, which is highly informal. And also basically designing the product, being able to measure what your reduction in greenhouse gas emissions were, making the banks aware of the importance of this type of investments in terms of identifying their green portfolio, discussing with the commercial arms of the banks on how to ask for the information. There were a lot of gaps that we needed to address for this to actually work. So for the last year and a half, we've been addressing those gaps, basically socializing a lot with the different business chambers, which we call gremios here. We also did it wasn't a master's, basically it's a certified vocational training program to be able to develop energy efficiency products. So we had people from banks, from the production sector, from engineers, from different sides who were trying to get into the sector. And now we've finally had the first credit approved. And we think that this will have a triple impact. And I want to dive in a little bit about the credit line that today, the first project that we've approved. It was a couple of basically changing all the ovens from wood for pottery production in an area where they produce a lot of pottery from wood-based to electric. And this has not only will make also the production more efficient, but also it creates reduces the health hazards because this was where the family lived. So this is the type of things that we need to think about, how to help them design the product, help them to design how much emissions they're going to reduce. So you have to address a lot of the challenges here. But we believe that once the product gains traction and we create the ecosystem that we needed to create, we will have the triple impact, which is obviously an increase in production efficiency, culture change, and generating efficient employment, improving social welfare. I discussed about the risk of having a wood-based oven open in the house, and obviously in terms of environmental. And just a couple of conclusions, because I'm going to end here. What do I think are the key takeaways and the biggest challenges that we face, as a development bank, and as a development bank in a country in South America? Basically is actually having the right concessional funding, right? Today the funding comes, but it's not precisely concessional, and it's obviously a lot of the funding is denominated in foreign currency. So fluctuations in the local currency and devaluation of the currency that we've seen in the entire region has been an issue in terms of basically accessing the right type of funding. And this is where a lot of also the concessional funding thing needs to be able to attract also philanthropic funding at zero cost. Because I think if we're gonna do the transition, we need to work with better types of funding. The second one is the technical assistance. The technical assistance is key because here we're looking at changes in behavioral changes in production patterns, and that's really hard to measure. And I think that the funding cannot come out without technical assistance. It's really, really hard for a livestock producer or an agriculture producer or even an SME to change the way that they produce without the technical assistance, and this has to come at a really low cost. And obviously, we need to be able to measure that change, right? The third one is obviously the MRV technologies. I discussed a little bit of monitoring, reporting, and verification of the life of the credit or the life of the project. These technologies today are very expensive, and obviously, banks and a lot of different companies shy away from having this. And I think that if we are gonna have green-linked financing, we need to be able to give the banks and obviously all the institutions affordable and understandable monitoring, reporting, and verification technologies. And the last but not least is generating the pipeline. This has been one of our biggest challenges. Generating the green pipeline is tough. You need to work with the entire ecosystem, from the producer to the banks to the developers, the consultants, and you need to create awareness and interconnection. And it's a big challenge, but it's very rewarding when you see the first one. So I'm going to stop here, and I'm open to any questions.
Thank you very much for that great presentation, Dominica. You can see in your screen also her contact information in the last slide. You may just open your microphone and ask directly the question or type it in the chat room. Let me just say, Dominica, that this was one of the most interesting presentations we have, and very, very clear. The last takeaways points that you were mentioning about concessional funding, technical assistance, monitoring and reporting, which is very expensive, and also generating the green pipeline is very illustrative of how this can be very challenging for the national financial system, which we thought was very, very interesting, because we were focusing a lot in the international funds. But now you have given us the perspective of the national side and these challenges. So if someone has a question, please go ahead. Otherwise,
Hi, Dominica. Oh, sorry, can I go? Or is there another person? Okay.
yes.
All right. Thank you so much for a great presentation. The challenges you highlighted towards the end, very curious as to what you would consider maybe some lessons, major lessons learned for regarding technical assistance and the generating of the pipeline that you mentioned last. Just curious, because I feel like while all of those are very applicable to, I would say, Guyana, just based on like some work I have done in the past, or things that are of interest to me, I'm very much curious to learn what lessons you would have learned in this regard for the technical assistance and the generating the green pipeline, if that's all right, if you could share. Thanks.
Of course. I mean, this highlights a little bit of what Fernando also said. You know, you may have the movements in terms of green financing and what countries said that they're prioritizing globally. But then you have to apply this to your local reality, right? And your local reality may be different to Colombia, may be different to South Africa, may be different to many other countries, because the local conditions where you're starting at may be very different. So what we've learned is, you know, when we take the funding, you know, it's not automatic that you're going to be able to translate into these loans and changing practices. You need to be very aware in working in a bottoms-up approach. And this was something that I learned, especially in trying to navigate how you create that demand in the market, right? So understanding the producer's needs, understanding really your client. Here we work a lot through, we call them gremios, they're business chambers, and there's a lot of different associations. You need to work at the local level. You need to understand those producers' needs and where they're starting, where is their starting point, and then say, okay, I have all these, you know, requirements from my funding that I need to do. And one of the things that helped us a lot to do is we set aside some money from our own development bank to try to create that producer, and at that, let's say, at a 1.0 stage, right? Working directly with the banks and the commercial arms of the banks, understanding what the type of need, how can we create ways that they can offer this product in a more simple way, identifying those to do this technical assistance, try to create, you know, that technical assistance at a lower cost, because today a lot of those technical assistants, you know, they're reserved for more. You have like two, I would say, two levels. You have, you know, the top producers that are able to pay it, and you have, you have probably the free technical assistance that comes from different types of organizations that today, you know, they're probably not very well trusted locally. So you need to create that trust. And I think as a development bank, we try to create that type of, I would say, teamwork, because obviously you need to work with the producer, you need to work with the bank, you need to work with the different technical assistants. And we've tried to use that and give them a lot of press, right? Making them commit to the practice. We're going to pilot this, and we're, you know, at 1 year, we're going to adjust it. We're going to pilot this, and at 1 year, we're going to adjust it. Generating that pipeline is really tough. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, but I think once that you've generated 1 or 2, 3, 5 producers, and they see that it's working and it's creating more resilient practices, others will emulate, right? Slowly. And today I do think that to scale it, we need more financing. And, you know, nature will require all types of projects, right? You know, there's 1,000 ways, there's no one right way. And I think that when we're looking at different sectors in different countries, we need to understand their takeoff point. We need to generate trust. We need to assure that that technical system actually works, because, as I said, changing behavioral patterns are extremely hard, and being able to measure them are hard. And actually get concessional funding. I mean, countries, you know, who are actually putting market barriers to enter their markets have to assure that, you know, the playing field is leveled. And today, a lot of that funding is concentrated in other countries that are more sexy, which is Brazil or the Amazon. But there's a lot of other ecosystems that are extremely fragile, and that I think that we should find a way to highlight the importance of our ecoregions and have a very kind of, you know, understanding at the local level. And I think that requires commitment, right? That's something that hopefully, you know, maybe it's not a straight answer, but hopefully it's a kind of a trial and error. But I think that it will take time for this to really gain traction and scale, and the scale will probably be in a wide different types of toolkits.
Thank you very much, Dominica. I appreciate the answer.
Someone else that want to make a question? That was an interesting answer. And the pipeline actually involves entrepreneurship to generate that pipeline. That's really tough when you have to look at the global business or international arena for your businesses. There are some key actors in Guyana and Suriname that are in the academics, in the public sector, private. So it's very helpful to highlight those challenges, Dominica. Does someone else want to ask another question? Please go ahead. We have space for one additional question in terms of timing. Dominica, I know that you have another meeting to go, so we have space for one additional question.
If there are no more questions, I can leave you my details. And obviously, if you were shy not to ask a question here, I'm really open to sharing IFED's experience. And I don't know, I didn't read your profiles in your class, but I presume a lot of your policymakers or are in the technical aspect of the business. And I say that this job requires passion. And if you're passionate, you will find a way to adapt what you're doing. Paraguay, we're very proud about our abundant natural capital and our production capacity. And we want for it to continue to develop sustainably. And I think that it is a lesson because we've managed to navigate it with a lot of turmoil that other countries have had. And I think it's a beautiful case study to start to review. So if there's any questions that you will have or think up later, I'm very happy to answer them later.
Thank you very much, Dominica. And I'm sure everybody is very, very happy with your presentation. And you have shown a lot of things like this development of how our AFD has helped the financial system to shift from short-term loans to longer terms loans, which is very, very interesting for some type of projects like the forestry, energy, housing. So it has been a lot of work, and also AFD is working with about 50 financial institutions, cooperative banks, and connecting with the international funding. As you said, concessional funding and technical assistance are key. So basically, AFD is becoming a knowledge center for all the institutions and is translating these international goals to national goals, and is being very effective. And of course, having you there, Dominica, I would say, and people like you shifting the boat makes it very successful. I like to, again, thank you for your presentation, your time. We will have your contact information for everybody to, if they want to make additional questions, or, for the financial sector, for climate finance and climate change. Thank you very much, Dominica, for being today with us. And now we're going to shift to a little bit of our course management. So you are good to go, Dominica, and thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. And obviously you have my contact details. Fernando, you have the presentation, so I'm available if you need it. And thank you very much for the opportunity again. Bye-bye.
Bye, Dominica. Thank you. Appreciate it. Let me share again the presentation. Of course, we have what I want to make sure everybody knows is this is our third session, and this is my okay. Here we have we have an overall progress that is excellent. Is really excellent. We have everybody enrolled, and most of you have taken the pre-course survey, which is a baseline. It's the starting point, which you can see here. You go to our Moodle platform, and you start clicking here, and the pre-course survey, baseline survey. Most of you have done that. If not, I encourage you to do it, and then start moving from module 1 through 4. As you know, there are 4 modules and 4 virtual sessions as well. Today was the 3rd one. And in each module, you will find 3 videos, key videos, which we have generated doing a lot of work, consulting a lot of documents and summarizing them, and It's a mix of everything. We really appreciate all the information that was facilitated from Jamel and Hema from Suriname, Guyana, and also we have used artificial intelligence to generate the image, content, and videos. So I encourage you to see these videos. There are 3 videos in each module. 2 of them have 4 videos. You just can go through them 1 or 2 as many times, and are about 10 to 15 minutes videos. Are not very long, but you can cover each model in about 1 hour watching the videos. And then, as we told you before, we have as well a booklet for each module, which you can read actually what is being reflected in the videos, the content of the videos, and that's an optional reading. And also you have optional videos, optional readings. There are many readings. I mean, there are documents that are very long, like 600 pages. There is one that is, that is over 3,000 pages, but we refer to the documents, and we know that is in this period of time is very difficult to read all, but you can just look through the reading options, and even those long documents you can scan very quickly, see the content of them. So to enrich your learning experience, and also to see what is there, so you can go back and read the materials and have that as a resource for future consultancy. So basically, you go through all the models, and what we really want to request you is to do the quizzes. There are 4 quizzes at the end of each module, and here's the quiz 1 in module 1. And so you watch the videos, and then you do the quizzes. And also, as optional, there are some exercises at the end of each module. We have seen that there are 3 of you that have completed all 4 quizzes. So our congratulations to you. And also, there is 1 of you that have done all the optional exercises for all the 4 modules. So that's very, very impressive. We are very happy with that. We encourage you to work through this last week. We're gonna have our next session next week on Monday. So basically we have the weekend, and then we can have our last session. Our last session will be more about this green pipeline that Dominica was mentioning, which is really hard at the end of the day to generate, because you have all these challenges, the consultants, the entrepreneurs, the government, all the stakeholders interacting at the national base, but also in the international arena. If you need concessional funding, or if you need to access and to look at those markets. So it's very complex. We have seen that this coordination is quite challenging, and also developing projects for the international funds take a lot of effort, coordination effort, participation, knowledge, and time. And most of the time we are with we don't have much resources and time to devote. But I like to encourage you to participate and to watch the videos, and to participate on Monday on this last week and virtual session, as we are gonna also capitalize the whole e-learning course for Guyana and Suriname and combine with what you have done and go through during the workshops, both in Guyana and Suriname as well. So we are converging the knowledge of the e-platform, e-learning platform, with the workshop that you have done. And lastly, let me say that you have done very well in the quizzes, and we are really impressed. Very good results. We thought some of the questions were really tough, but you are, you are generating very good results. So congratulations on that. And basically, that's what we have for today. Again, please try to watch the videos, finalize the quizzes, and by November 15th, we should be okay to finalize everything by next week. So thank you very much. We are done for today. Unless you have some questions, I'm happy to respond. Thank you. See you on Monday.
Thank you, Fernando. Bye.
Thank you, Melanie. Thank you for your question as well. Thank you, everybody.